Okay, 5th and 6th grade, be quiet and listen, okay? Thank you for getting quiet so quickly. Look, all right, you got your notebook, okay? Ready to go? You can follow along with that. It's Red Ribbon Week, okay? We'll be talking about some social emotional content that you can take home and hopefully help yourself with. And we have John and Sasha with us from Life That Counts, okay? And John's going to be speaking with us. And we're going to be also going to be doing some filming today, so make sure you're on your best behavior. You may be in the film, all right? So, may catch it out. You better watch yourself, okay? Because we'll get the video so we can see it, all right? So make sure you're watching out. So, let's give a big double strength welcome to John.
Hey, good morning, guys. It's really great to be here. So let's get started. We used to call this brain health, and we had a picture of a brain, and then my 15-year-old son, Joshua, who's a student at West Point High School, he's a 10th grader, Joshua says, "Dad, you can't call it brain health. That's just too old." He said, "That's just way too professional. Nobody's going to get it." And he sat there for a minute, and we were riding in the truck together, and it was after school, and he said, "I think you should call it noodle knowledge." So, can anybody guess why the logo? Do you see on the front of your book? Can you guess why the logo? It is a dog. It's not a ducky, it's a doggy. So, anybody have dogs? And you other people who own cats? Y'all are strange. All right, where's my dog people at? Dog people? Dog people? Okay, all at once, just say what kind of dog you have and say his name. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so some of you guys' dogs have some really long names because you're still going. So can I have your attention, please? So we were sitting around the conference table in like March of this year, and one of our team members was like, "Hey, who wants a golden doodle?" And I said, "Me!" Because my wife's wanted a golden doodle forever, and I just have not lucked up and been able to find her a golden doodle. And then she says to me, but here's what you need to know about this golden doodle. So he's been attacked. He was attacked when he was still so he was born in February of this year. And he got attacked while he was like in a fence or something, and another animal hurt him really bad, and we thought he was going to be a tripod. And I'm like, a tripod golden doodle? What's better than a golden doodle? A tripod golden doodle. That's awesome. Like a 3-leg, you know what I'm saying? You got a tripod, you know what I'm saying? 3 legs. He's got 3 legs instead of 4. And I thought this would be awesome to have a 3-legged doodle. I mean, he would be like the coolest dog ever. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, this guy's fantastic. So anyway, months went by and months went by and months went by, and he finally healed up. And then finally in the summer, we go to get him and we pick him up, and like his leg is healing and this kind of thing. He still doesn't have a lot of fur like on the bottom part of his leg. It's just like skin and stuff, but it's like, it looks normal, I guess, if a dog's skin looks normal without hair, which is kind of weird, but anyway, we still love him. But this dog, he's Noodle the Doodle. We have named our dog Noodle the Doodle. So we have 2 dogs. We have Noodle the Doodle and Rhett the pet. Noodle the Doodle and Rhett the pet. And Rhett is a tiny little, you know, ankle muncher dog. You know what I'm saying? One of them little like hairballs floating across the floor. That's Rhett the pet. But Noodle the Doodle, he's the size of a small horse. And Noodle the Doodle walked in the bathroom this morning behind me, and his back is like as tall as, I mean, this dog is getting really big. When he stands up on his back legs, his paws can come on my shoulders. And his head, he lays his head on my chest, and Noodle gives me a hug. Every time I come home, Noodle jumps up on me, and he wraps his arms around me, and he gives me a hug. He's more affectionate than my kids. I mean, it's fantastic. I absolutely love this dog. This dog is wonderful. So we've changed the name of the content from Brain Health, which is apparently old and boring, to Noodle Knowledge. We started with a cup of noodles, but I was like, you know what? I want to do noodle knowledge. I want to name it after my dog, Noodle, because he's so loving. He's so affectionate. He always makes you feel good. He always licks you, so I don't encourage you lick one another, but, you know, passing the love, that's a good thing. If you will, please, there is a portion of your workbook. If you want to sign your name to it, you can open up first couple pages, I think. It has in there, it says, "My name, this book belongs to." And you can put your name, if you would so like to do so, under that part that says, "This book belongs to." That way, if the book gets lost, someone can return it to you. After you do that, talk to me, brother. My book's actually in the truck.
You need to go get it and put Noodle the Doodle in it.
Well, if he is in it. You know what? I might show y'all a picture of Noodle the Doodle in a bit. So here's what I'd like for you to do now. If you'll flip forward just a couple of more pages, maybe a few more pages, you're going to find something that looks like an iceberg. Do you see that on the left side of the page? That is supposed to be an iceberg. So let's talk a little bit about icebergs. What do we know about icebergs? They're cold. What else do we know about icebergs? Wait, raise your hands and I'll call on you. What you got?
Most of it is under the water.
That's exactly right. Most of the iceberg is under the water. And so that means that only a little bit of the iceberg lives above the water. What else do we know about icebergs?
They live in cold places like Arctica and I can't remember the other place. Alaska. Made of ice.
They're made of ice.
They're bigger than they seem.
They're bigger than they seem.
That they break off a lot and they do. People sometimes get caught in it.
People can, yes.
They move to 1 inch, 2 inches every year.
That's exactly right. They did sink. One did sink the Titanic.
They can carve canyons.
They can carve canyons, glaciers.
They can break.
They can break. That's exactly right. You guys are really smart. There's this theory that's called the Iceberg Theory, and the theory talks about, let me ask you guys a question. Have you ever been really happy? Have you ever been just super happy, like just really nuts, wild, bonkers happy? Some of you guys are like, I cannot believe he just did that. I did. Yes, I did. I can't believe I just did it, but I did it. How about, have any of you ever been like super sad? Yes. Like your goldfish Charlie, you had to flush him. You know, it's like, you know what I'm saying? And Charlie went under for the last time. How about, have any of you ever been really angry? Have you ever been really angry? Have you ever seen one of your parents really angry and they're driving in traffic and it's like, will this person get out of my way? You know? Yeah. Well, let's talk for just a second about some of these emotions, because there are 4 of what we call primary emotions. And see, here's the thing about the iceberg. The iceberg, it kind of serves as a map for our emotions when we think about it. And I'm going to tell you why in a minute. But before we begin to investigate the map, what we need to do is we need to know whether or not the map has a key. Do you guys know what I'm talking about when I talk about the map's key? What am I talking about? Who knows what I'm talking about? Talk to me.
It's like if it's like, it gives you information.
It gives you information on how to read the map. Anybody else? So, for example, the map's key might have a little distance thing down here. The map's key may have a compass on it that points north, south, east, west. The map's key may have it's going to have little tips and tricks. It's going to have little symbols of what the roads look like or what the rivers look like, or if it's a topography map, it's going to show you the elevation and different things like that. For an emotional map, the key that we need to have is we need to know which emotions belong where. So the 4 emotions on the right-hand side of the page, you guys see that? We have sad, we have anger, we have what else? Afraid, And then the last one, happy. So there's like 4 primary emotions. So every other emotion that could come out of us, like disgust, frustration, jubilation, those types of emotions, they all come from or are because of one of these. Now, I want to ask you to think for a second. Can you remember, close your eyes for just a second. Do you remember a time where you strongly felt sad, anger, afraid, or happy, like one of those emotions? Do you remember a time where you felt that way? Where you like really mad and you didn't know what to do? Or really afraid and you didn't know what to do? Or like really super happy? Okay, you can open your eyes. Let me ask you guys this. Can somebody tell me what anger looks like?
When people get angry, they might throw stuff at people.
Okay, so they may do harm to another. What else? What else might anger look like? What else might anger look like? Out of control. Out of control could be anger. What else? I saw a hand in the back.
Breaking stuff.
Breaking stuff. What else?
Being mean to friends.
Mean. Mean to friends. What else? Names, which is, okay, being mean to friends. What else?
They may yell.
Yell.
Hitting stuff.
What's that?
Hitting stuff.
Hit stuff. Yeah.
I think it could be like sad.
Say that again.
I think sad could be just angry or something.
Okay, let's hit sad in just a second.
May accidentally harm others, not meaning to.
Harm others.
Tell people to shut up.
Okay, tell people to shut up, which is kind of the same as being mean. Let me ask you guys a question. Does anger have to do those things? Does anger have to break stuff? Does anger have to be mean to others? Does anger have to call names? No? So just because we might see some of these things, is there other ways that we can like express anger? What are some other ways that we could express anger? What are some other ways that we could demonstrate anger? Yes, ma'am.
Throw a temper tantrum.
Is that a healthy or an unhealthy expression of anger?
Unhealthy.
I want to look for a healthy expression of anger. What's a healthy expression of anger? What's that? Take a walk. What else? What's that? Meditate. What else? Breathe. What else? Therapy. Absolutely. Talking to somebody. Talking it out, right? Getting it off your chest, processing it. What you got?
Maybe doing something happy to take your mind off your anger.
Redirecting the anger, redirecting the energy. Do something happy to take your mind off the anger. What else? Draw, which would be a redirection of energy to draw. Anybody got anything else? What you got?
Sleeping sometimes.
Sometimes sleeping is healthy because sometimes it's really hard to make good decisions on very little rest. You know what I'm saying? I want to move on to another one. You guys have really good answers. What is, let's talk about sad for a second. What would be an unhealthy example of sad? Who'd like to go? That was pretty epic. Not sleeping? How about sleeping too much? Would that one work? I'm losing my marker. What else? What you got? Suicidal thoughts. What else?
Wanting to harm a person?
Wanting to harm a person. Again, that could be sad or mad. Let me come to somebody else. What you got?
Taking drugs.
Okay. Now, these are all unhealthy examples of extreme sadness, right? You guys can put your hands down for just a moment. These are all unhealthy examples of sadness. These are unhealthy outlets of sadness. What would be a healthy outlet for being sad? Talk to me. What's that? Do something you like to do?
Talk to friends and family about your troubles.
Talk to a friend or a family?
Sleep.
Sleep, but not too much.
Yeah, not too much.
Maybe you could do like what you can do with anger. Maybe you could work out or something to get your mind off of it.
Redirect it. Redirect the energy. Absolutely. Up top.
Don't get crippling depression or else you're gonna lose drugs. You're gonna get off of crystals.
All right, say that again.
Don't get crippling depression.
Don't get crippling depression. What is crippling depression? That's really good.
If you're depressed too much, you basically want to die and you say,
So, in other words, am I hearing you say, like, get yourself out of it? Like, snap out of it? Sometimes you need to talk to somebody. Who said that? Sometimes you need to take a nap. Sometimes you need to get up and get going. Sometimes you need to redirect the energy. Here's what I want to ask you guys. I want to ask you to just to think for a moment. Whenever we're talking about how to spend our energy, we're talking about what are unhealthy and what are healthy outlets. Do you guys know anyone who's ever got a new car? Do you guys know anyone who's ever got a new car? So I know someone who recently got a new car. And this person, every day, she takes a cloth and washes down her car, whether it needs to be wiped down or not. I mean, she gives this car more attention and more affection than our dog Noodle, right? She's always in the garage with the washcloth wiping down the car. So my question is, if you have something that's valuable, then shouldn't you take care of it? Shouldn't you take care of something that's valuable? So how do you take care of something that's valuable? Do you want to wad it up, or do you want to crumble it, or do you want to drag it through the mud, or do you want to? No, you want to keep it nice and crisp, right? You want to keep it fresh. You want to hang on to it for something that's worth spending it on. Guys, aren't you more valuable than a $20 bill? So just because you may feel a certain way, just because you may feel sad, just because you may feel angry, just because you may feel lonely or tired or afraid, does that really mean that you should spend yourself in a way that's unhealthy? Do you know what I'm saying? Someone said suicidal thoughts. Our thoughts can be a place to create. Our thought life can be a place to... If I say Tesla, do y'all know what I'm talking about? A fellow by the name of Elon Musk used his thoughts to create the electric car Teslas. And Teslas are pretty cool. And every day when my wife gets home from school, my wife's a school teacher, she's in the garage with a cloth wiping down her shiny new Tesla. She always wipes the thing down. And I'm like, girl, you give that thing more attention than you do our kids. And she's like, well, I just want it to be nice, and I want it to be shiny, and I want to take care of it. And the way fuel prices are right now, I might be out there with her this afternoon wiping it down. But something that's of value to you, you want to take care of it. You want to look after it. You don't want to just waste it. You don't want to just throw it away. Who thinks a $20 bill has value? Who would take care of it if they were to receive it? Well, since your hand was the first up, like with vigor, then it's yours to keep. Because here's the thing about, you've been entrusted with a gift. And the gift that you've been entrusted with is your life. And you've been entrusted with the friendships that you have, with your friends around you. You've been entrusted with the relationships that you have with your moms, your dads, your grandparents, your brothers, your sisters. You've been entrusted with this precious relationship that you have with your teachers, because they show up and they want to help prepare you for when you get a little older and when you get a little farther down the road. See, you've been entrusted with these things, and I'm going to tell you, what you've been entrusted with is far more valuable than just a bill. What you've been entrusted with is a gift of life. And sometimes you may feel angry, and sometimes you may feel afraid, and sometimes you may feel lonely, and sometimes you may feel tired. You may feel all these ways. But just because you feel all of these ways, it doesn't mean that you have to act out. So what I want to do for the next couple of minutes, I want to give you guys an opportunity to create your own plan to get yourself out of a tough situation. So I want to show you some things. So you may have to stand up for this, and before you stand up, before I ask you to stand up, let's just remember some civil skills before we stand up and participate. Well, one of the civil skills is you might need to stretch out a little bit, and if so, then it's okay to slide down a little bit after you stand up. Don't step on your neighbor or step on your neighbor's stuff or anything like that. Give yourself space. When you stand up, do so without moving your mouth, so that way you can hear directions, so you can know what's coming next. But now I want to invite you. You can close your books. I want to invite you guys to stand up with me. Slide down a little bit and give yourself a little bit of space and a little bit of room. Now, I want to invite you guys to close your eyes for a minute. I want to invite you to close your eyes for just a minute. Now, what I want you to do with your eyes closed is I want you to remember a time. I want you to remember a time when you were really proud of you. Like you did something that you're like, you know what, that was pretty cool. Like maybe you held open the door for somebody, maybe you carried groceries out, or maybe you made your bed or cleaned up your room without being asked, or you took the trash out, or you fed and watered the animals, or you helped mow the grass or picked up trash or something. No one had to ask you to do it, you just did it. You studied hard, you made well on a test. Remember a time when you were proud of you. All right, with your eyes closed. Now what I want to invite you to do, and if you have your books in your hand, you're going to want to set your books down. Take your hands and place your hands on your hips. Chest out, head up straight, shoulders pulled back, eyes closed, not in a way that's uncomfortable, like it doesn't need to be like stiff as a board or anything like that. It needs to be comfortable. It needs to be Superman, Superwoman, standing there. And while you're doing that, don't forget to breathe. So when I say inhale, I want you to take about 5 seconds to pull in a breath. We're going to hold the breath for about 5 seconds, and then we're going to let it go for about 5 seconds. Now, open up your eyes real quick, because I need to give you a little bit of direction on how this thing works. When you inhale for about 5 seconds and hold it for about 5 seconds, it's going to make a lot of us want to cough. because a lot of us typically don't breathe that deeply on a regular basis. And what's happening is you're pushing air deeper and deeper and deeper into your lungs when you hold that breath and when you inhale like that. So it's going to make you feel like you need to cough. That's okay. Go ahead and cough, get it out of your system, and then come back and start all over and join us. And some of you guys are going ahead and doing it. Yes, sir.
Don't forget to cover your mouth.
Don't forget to cover your mouth. Yes, sir. That's correct. All right. So let's do this. Eyes closed again. Remember that time you were proud of you. Hands on your hips. Shoulders pulled back. Head up straight. Chest out. And let's inhale. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Ah. 3, 2, 1. Inhale. Hold it. Exhale. I messed up the count, didn't I? Like some of you guys pulled in 3 times. Yeah. All right, let's do it again. 3, 2, 1. Inhale. Let it go. Now this time, let's try to like inhale all 5 counts, because I think we all just kind of inhaled it for like 8 seconds is how it worked. Let's try it again. Ready? 3, 2, 1, inhale. Hold it. Let it go. You're like, yes. Inhale. 3, 2, 1. Hold it. Let it go. All right, so you kind of see how it goes now? Yeah, kind of like a balloon. So let's see how like smooth we can make that. Let's see if we can do that without really thinking too hard about it. Ready? 3, 2, 1, inhale. Hold it. Let it go. You guys can have a seat. So, we just did 3 things right there all at once. And we actually did some of the things that you guys mentioned that we should do. We took time to breathe. Energy with some positive thoughts. Remember, I asked you to think about a time when you were proud of yourself. We also redirected energy by standing up and having you get out of a slouched position and having you get in a posture that was big and open and wide and expansive. I want to ask you guys a question. How many of you spend time on a device that looks kind of like this? Will you come hold my mic for me, please? Hold my mic for me. One of the problems, hold it up here for me, please. Yes, thank you. Awesome. Yes. You're my mic stand. Thank you. Don't hit me with it.
I won't. I'm a nice person.
All right, you're a nice person. Okay, I'll pick the right person. The problem with devices like this, or even game controllers like this, is when we hold them, they don't allow us to be in a big, open, wide, expansive posture. They don't allow us to take up space. And whenever we're in tight, our shoulders are in, our knees are in, like my shoulders are pulled together, my elbows are in together. Whenever I'm right here, this body posture actually tells my body that I'm in an afraid stance. It tells me that I'm in a scared stance. And whenever our body gets in either an afraid or a scared stance, our body releases a chemical hormone called cortisol. And cortisol is a chemical that makes us feel more stressed out. It makes us feel even more afraid than we were to start with. For those of you who are conscious or wanting to change any of it, cortisol is also the hormone that absolutely does not let us lose belly fat whatsoever. Cortisol is the hormone that makes us store belly fat because we're stressed out and we're anxious. And so what happens is when we spend a lot of time on these things, with our elbows, our knees, our bodies in tight like we're scared or in an afraid position, well, then our body starts to believe that we're in a scared or afraid position. And that, thank you, ma'am. Y'all give her a hand. And so that's one of the things that I want to encourage you. Look, you guys are smart people. You guys are sensible people, right? Cell phones and video games and stuff like this has been around for a long time. This is nothing new. So my encouragement to you all is to make sure that you're just aware of how much time you're spending in that really close. And so we directed some of that energy and we had you stand up and you put your hands on your hips and you pulled your shoulders back and you put your head up straight and you probably felt about a foot taller because you probably were about a foot taller than you usually are. And then when we breathed in deep, and for a lot of us, it was an uncomfortable thing to breathe in that deeply. And some of you probably did naturally just kind of cough because you're not used to pulling breath in that deeply. But guys, it's healthy for us to breathe deeply. And one comment that I want to make about that, if I say Navy SEALs, do y'all know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
They're the most elite militant soldier. They're the most elite combatant soldier that our armed forces has produced. Do you guys know one of the things that we teach Navy SEALs? The breathing exercise that I just showed to you all. It's called box breathing. And what box breathing does is it allows me to remember who I am. It allows me to remember my training. It allows me to remember where I've come from. It allows me to remember where I'm going. It allows me to take time to breathe and take time to think. The difference between the hero and the victim in any given situation, it's mindset. And being Red Ribbon Week, there's an emphasis this week on not subjecting our bodies and not subjecting ourselves to harmful situations. See, my man with the $20 here, we all recognize this as something that's having value. You may not always recognize yourself as having value, but you're worth way more than the $20 bill. Like there's no amount that can cover your value. So then if we can believe that and if we can understand that and if we know that, then the question becomes, if you're worth so much, why would you throw that away on injecting or ingesting some sort of a harmful thing into your body? Why would you give that away by being in a relationship that's unhealthy for you? Why would you subject your body to anything that's unhealthy if you're so valuable? Even the video games and such, we just learned that it actually does our bodies harm to subject ourselves to time after time after time after time after time again, holding these devices in our hands, holding these controllers in our hands. Why would you subject yourself, you being of great value, why would you minimize your value? Are you guys following me?
Yes.
Using kind of some big words here. But why would you diminish or decrease your value by subjecting your body to something that's not nearly as valuable as you are? You wouldn't do that. That would be like trading a $20 bill for a nickel. You wouldn't do it. That would be like trading a $100 bill for a dime. I mean, the ratio's not correct, but we just wouldn't do it, right? You wouldn't do that. Like, that's not a very good trade. You wouldn't do that at all. So one of the reasons why I want you guys to understand the emotional piece of this is because sometimes, as you all told me, sometimes anger can make us act out in a way that's unhealthy. Remember? Sometimes sadness can cause people around us, even us at times, to act out in a way that's unhealthy. But we also discovered that just because you feel a certain way, just because you feel afraid, or just because you feel angry, or just because you feel hurt, or just because you feel a certain way, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to act out in a way that's unhealthy towards your body. Some of you guys said hitting someone else or breaking something, right? We understand those, we recognize those as unhealthy things. Now, aside from like self-defense and that sort of thing, we understand that hitting and breaking stuff and such, we understand that to be an unhealthy thing. So guys, here's what I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you to remember my dog Noodle. Because every time I see my dog Noodle, I am going to show you a picture of him, and my bad for not having this on the big screen. But I want you to see my dog, Noodle. This is Noodle the Doodle. And, oh, that's Noodle the Doodle. Can you guys see him? I have a picture of Rhett the pet somewhere, but I just think Noodle the Doodle's prettier than Rhett the pet. If I can find one of Rhett, I'll show you one of Rhett. That's Noodle the Doodle. Can you see where his leg is bandaged? Do you see where it's getting dark? There you go. Can you see where his leg is bandaged? Well, and here's the thing about this picture. This picture was actually taken in July. He's much bigger than that now. I thought about bringing him today, actually, but you guys have a really nice gym floor, and I didn't want him to use it, you know. What I want to remind you guys is when you're in a space, this is super important. I want to remind you that when you're in a space and you're maybe feeling a certain way, and you're thinking about doing something that's unhealthy, when you're thinking about maybe disrespecting the value of yourself, or when you're thinking about disrespecting the value of your neighbor, or when you're thinking about disrespecting the value of a relationship with your mom, your teacher, your brothers, your sister, somebody else in the community, I want you to remember how valuable you are. And I want you to remember my little dog Noodle, big dog Noodle, who every time I go home, he puts his paws on me and he gives me a hug. I want you to remember how valuable you are. I was out to Montana for a few days last week, and when I would call home and do FaceTime, I would see him running around the living room trying to figure out where I was, because he could hear my voice but he couldn't see me. And then when I got home and I opened the garage, he's standing there at the door, you know, with his big head, his big fluffy ears in the door, and he's looking at me. He's like, he's home, you know. It's like the best feeling ever. The best feeling ever. And if a little dog can make me feel that way, well, guys, then surely we can help each other feel better than that, right? We can be an encouragement to one another. And we can remember to value self. Does that make sense? Is that helpful? Is that good? Good. All right. Thanks for letting me come and yap at y'all for a few minutes. Y'all have a good rest of your day.
You too. Can you come back tomorrow? I know. Yeah.
It's wanting to bark.
Okay, let's give John and Monte Camps another round of applause.
Sorry.
For coming in and doing this.
Yeah. No, we're good.